Shooting at a firing range. Individual firing ranges may vary in rules and procedures, but all have a clearly designated firing line. Many have a ceasefire line, and all have a downrange area, which is where targets are positioned. The safest available muzzle direction from the firing line is toward the downrange area. Some ranges may require that each person sign in upon arrival. Glasses with side shields are shown here and provide more security than those without. Before entering a firing range, you must equip yourself with proper safety gear. Protection for your eyes and ears is an essential part of range safety. Check the status of the firing line and enter only when it is safe to do so. Whenever a range is in use, someone must be named as the range officer. Upon approval of the range officer, firearms may be brought onto the range and taken to the firing point on the firing line. At this range, a red flag means caution. The range is active. Firearms must only be loaded at the firing line. Ensure safe muzzle direction, and when ready, request that a ceasefire be called. In an emergency, anyone can call a ceasefire and must be obeyed by everyone at the range. The range officer will call a ceasefire.
Ceasefire?
At the ceasefire command, all firing stops at once. Firearms are proved safe. Actions are left open, and all firearms are laid on the mat or table immediately in front of each shooter. Muzzles are pointed in a safe direction downrange. Shooters are required to move back from the firing line and behind the ceasefire line. The range officer inspects each firearm to ensure that each action is open and that all ammunition has been removed. Once satisfied, the range officer exchanges the red flag with a green flag to indicate that the range is inactive. At this point, shooters may proceed downrange to change targets. A verbal command to this effect is provided by the range officer. Persons not engaged in changing targets downrange should be well behind the ceasefire line. During a ceasefire, firearms may not be handled under any circumstances. Some ranges have equipment that changes targets automatically. However, most ranges require that you move downrange to manually set up targets. When the downrange area is clear, the range officer will change to the red flag and call the range active. Only then may the firing line be approached and firing begin. As this double-action revolver has left the owner's direct control, it is important for her to follow the vital 4 acts and prove the firearm safe as soon as she comes back in contact with it. Remember to check that the correct ammunition is being used. Once you are comfortable and ready to fire, move the safety to the firing position and align your sights on the target. Safe storage of restricted firearms. Owning a firearm means being responsible for it at all times, including its storage. Personal standards that exceed basic safety practices are the hallmark of a responsible firearm owner. In order to store any firearm, it must first be unloaded. Remember, each time a firearm is handled, the vital 4 acts must be observed. Prove it safe. Restricted firearms may be stored in one of 2 ways. Use a secure locking device to disable the firearm and store it in a securely locked container, receptacle, or room that cannot be easily broken open or into. In this example, a steel storage cabinet is being used. Ammunition for a restricted firearm may be stored in a place where it is not within easy access to the firearm. Ammunition may be stored together with or separately from the firearm in a securely locked container or receptacle that cannot be easily broken open or into. Restricted firearms and ammunition may also be stored together or separate from each other in a securely locked vault, safe, or room specifically built or adapted for the secure storage of restricted firearms. Display of restricted firearms. Every firearm on display in your home must be unloaded and cannot be displayed with nor be within easy access to ammunition that can be discharged from that firearm. Restricted firearms must be prevented from firing by using a secure locking device, such as a cable or trigger lock, so they cannot be operated. Displayed firearms must be attached to a non-portable structure that cannot be easily removed. All displayed firearms must be kept secure. Transportation of restricted firearms. When transporting a restricted firearm, the firearm must be unloaded and locked with a secure locking device. It must be transported in a locked container made of an opaque material that cannot be easily broken open or into. If left in an unattended vehicle, the locked container carrying the restricted firearm must be locked in the trunk of the vehicle. If the unattended vehicle does not have a trunk, the locked container must be kept out of sight, and the vehicle or the part of the vehicle that contains the container must be locked. Remember, proper documentation is required to transport restricted firearms. Always follow the vital 4 acts in the safe use of firearms. Assume every firearm is loaded. Control the muzzle direction at all times. The trigger finger must be kept off the trigger and out of the trigger guard. See that the firearm is unloaded. Prove it's safe. To prove the firearm unloaded, point the firearm in the safest available direction. Remove all cartridges. Observe the chamber. Verify the feeding path. Examine the bore. Point, remove, observe, verify, and examine. Each step in that order contributes to prove a firearm safe. This completes the program. Thank you for your attention. And remember, always aim for safety.
Fire!